Hey, in this video, I'm going to show you quickly how you can get a JOT token on the SAP BTP with the XSUAA service using the authorization code flow. You might want to use that if you don't have an application router or if you want to test directly with something like Bruno or Postman or any other API client. Doing this is quite easy. If you know what to do, it can be quite confusing at the beginning. So let me quickly guide you through it. I've created two instances of the XSUAA service on the SAP BTP Cloud Foundry, one of them for an error case, one of them for the success case. Let's start with the success case. In general, to get the required data, you first want to take a look at one credential or at the credentials of the service. So what I've done here is I've created a service key, and let's take a look into that service key. So let's just use view. Here you have three main information pieces that you want to start with, which is the client ID, the client secret, and keep in mind, don't share the client secret. With that, somebody could access your instance, and the URL. The URL is necessary to now later on define the URLs that you'll need to call. With these three information pieces, save them somewhere and then construct a token endpoint URL, which is basically the URL that you have /OAuth/token. An authorization endpoint, which is the URL you grabbed, /OAuth/authorize. The authorization code is something we'll now grab afterwards. The redirect URI is something you can define, so it's a question of where you want to redirect to. I'll use localhost 5000 in this sample. And the client ID is basically what I just copied over or what I've got over here. Now, the first step is that you need to grab an authorization code. For that, let me quickly run Quokka here, then I can simply copy it over. For that, just copy it. You basically construct it in a way that you say, okay, the authorization URL is /OAuth/authorize, and then you add as URL parameters the client ID of the client that you're currently using, so the service instance. The response type in this case is code for the authorization code. And redirect URI is basically where you want it to be redirected to. So in this case, localhost 5000 callback. You'll use that in the browser and just put it in. And as you can see right now, we are calling this URL. And as soon as I triggered it, it will redirect me to localhost 5000, including the code. Now it redirects me because I'm already logged in. In case you are not logged in, you'd be asked to log in. Now with that code, all we can do is we can copy it in. This code can be used to now get a JOT token. For that, what we are doing is we're calling the token endpoint. And on that token endpoint, we are basically providing as the authorization, in this case, the client ID and client secret. We say the content type is form URL encoded, and then we include as the body, in this case, then the grant type authorization code with the code that we've just generated and the redirect URI that we specified. So again, localhost 5000 login callback. The authorization code is only valid for a very short time and it's only valid once. So in case something goes wrong, you need to basically grab a new authorization code. Let's just run this. And as soon as we run this, we can see, hey, we've got an access token. Access token, let's just take a look into it in a JOT decoder. Damn it. I should just use what Quokka's providing here, and I should just copy it over. That's way easier. Then let's go over, let's paste it in, and we can see, okay, it's a signature verified, so the signature is matching with regards to the token, and it's the information for the user that we could now also utilize in our application. So for example, if I want to refer to my family name, I can basically then use the decoded token to refer to it. But in general, this is my login information. I could use that and pass that, for example, to a CAP application, which would now recognize me as an authenticated user. If I'm authorized, it's a different story, but yeah, you can also do seed assigned collections, for example. It's as simple as that, but there might be a few caveats. So you could encounter an error. So if we switch to the not working version, let's just rerun Quokka for a second and copy over the authorization code. Now in this case, I'm using the other service instance that I've created with a slightly different configuration. And if we take a look here, we're getting an error. OpenID provider cannot process the request because redirect URI does not match the configuration. Why could that happen? That could happen, for example, because you've started with a very simple access security configuration provided by CAP, and you thought it might be sensible to change the default token validity from 12 hours to 15 minutes. For that, you might have introduced an auth2 configuration, and now you didn't include the redirect URIs, or the default redirect URIs got somehow overwritten. So in this case, it would have been perfectly fine if I included example.com/callback, but localhost is not part of the allowed redirect URIs anymore, so I would need to add it again. By default, if you don't specify it, it is in here. Why would you want to change the redirect URIs? In general, there are REST clients which can help you with this flow. For example, Postman can do something like this if you are allowed to use Postman at your organization. It's the same with this JOT stuff. Be careful if you paste something in, because that's basically the key to get in. They are saying, okay, it's all done client side, but only paste your JOT token somewhere where you're trusted. But back to the example of Postman. For example, if you look into Postman, there is a web version of Postman as well, and you would require, or they specify that you should redirect to this URI. So in this case, you might want to include, for example, this Postman redirect URI in here as well, and then update the respective service instance. But in general, it should work if you have the default settings, and then you can just use that JOT token to do whatever you want. For example, in our Bruno, we've got a script that basically then, based on the authorization code, gets that token. So it's more or less intransparent for the user. And if he switches the environments or the token validity runs out, we are just requesting him to paste it. But I'm sure that there are some REST clients which can open in a browser, and you can just copy it out without anything specific. All right, with that, in that case, there are any questions, just post them down below and I can try to answer them. Until then, bye-bye.